Hello, I'm Ronnie Eldridge. Welcome to Eldridge and Company. Politicians have talked about rebuilding the South Bronx for years, but Majora Carter is really doing it. She is the founder and director of an organization called Sustainable South Bronx. And instead of more sewage treatment plants and new stadiums, they're bringing parks, greenways, and jobs to the community. So, greeting. Why are you laughing? Because at me. So tell me, what's your relationship to the South Bronx, and specifically, I guess, to Hunts Point?
Oh, I am a very loud, proud daughter of the Hunts Point section of the South Bronx.
And how long, you grew up there?
I did. My dad bought the house that I grew up in back in the late 1940s. Actually, interestingly enough, won the whole $15,000 to buy the house at a horse race.
Oh my goodness!
And went down and plunked the whole thing and bought his house, which was really
that
fantastic.
Wonderful?
Yeah,
that's so great.
And for him, it was like moving up the economic ladder.
It must have been marvelous.
Truly.
Yeah.
And Hunts Point was a fantastic place, back then.
It was really a middle-income, middle-class neighborhood.
Yep, exactly.
Integrated?
Not so much at that time. My father was probably one of the few black families that lived in the neighborhood at that time. He brought my mom there, and it was really interesting because that was also around the time, a little bit later on, Robert Moses's history started to happen, in the South Bronx with the Cross Bronx development, also redlining, which was basically banks stopped loaning in those areas. And around that time, we started to see the decline, of the South Bronx, from this sort of, very stable working class, even middle class community into, a place there was a no loan zone, that no investment was being made. And, my father's investment kind of disappeared as a result of that.
So you stayed in that house?
Yeah, my dad, we couldn't sell it, wasn't worth the paper.
Is your father still alive?
No. Daddy would have been 100 this year had he lived.
So you then went to Bronx Science,
yes.
which was a terrific school, and then you went off to college.
Yes.
Yeah, you went to
Wesleyan University.
That was pretty good, huh?
It was culture shock, even
after Bronx Science.
Yeah, while I was still living in the Bronx, and at that time, the Bronx had stopped burning, but it still had the stigma of being this really horrible place.
South Bronx.
Yeah, the poster child of urban blight. That's what it was, and that's what I absolutely tried to get away from.
So you went to Wesleyan, and it was great. Then you went to get a graduate degree.
Yes, I did.
And you're basically an artist.
I am.
You have the soul of an artist.
I do. I consider that myself an artist, absolutely. Can't do this kind of work without thinking you got to be creative.
And then I love the story. You couldn't afford to live down near NYU, right?
No.
So you went back to the South Bronx.
Went to Mommy and Daddy.
And they're still living in that house?
They were. Both my parents have passed away since then. But they actually, welcomed me back, sort of. My mother. I'm the youngest of 10. I'm sure my parents were sort of happy to get rid of all the kids in the house.
Where are your siblings?
I've got a couple all over the country at this point. New Mexico, Georgia, Virginia, Connecticut, some in the Bronx. Mm-hmm.
So being in the Bronx and now being an artist with a graduate degree, what happened?
Well, moving back to the Bronx was a blessing that I never could have possibly imagined. I went back because I thought, I needed a place to stay, but I figured I'd use my arts degree, and since I was there, I'd use it to support the community in any way that I could, give back some. And so I actually worked for another organization there doing arts-related programming. And so I ran a film festival there. I did some public art projects there, and around the same time realized that, there were funny smells in the neighborhood. Didn't really understand them all, but knew that the place was not like the cleanest place on the planet. And then come to find out that the city and the state had planned on privatizing waste handling in the city, and that one of their great plans was to build this huge waste facility on the South Bronx waterfront in Hunts Point. And I got politicized. Nothing more than that.
Yeah. Did you have a political conscience before?
Not at all.
At college?
No. To be quite honest, Wesleyan was a pretty wealthy school.
Yeah.
And and I was from a really poor neighborhood. I didn't understand that kind of political correct things. I wanted to be involved in South African disinvestment programs, but I thought, my God, if I get arrested, my parents can't bail me out.
Right.
I can't do that. So I didn't. But it's interesting, but once I got back home and realized, to the extent to which that communities are created, often by the powers that be. It wasn't that the people in the South Bronx didn't care about their community. It was these were laws.
But it's so interesting that you chose to work there to begin with. Right there, it's just you did.
Right. Well, that was the blessing. I wasn't planning on moving back home.
Yeah.
But
and now you head up an organization.
Yes.
That is it's a wonderful organization because I think of several things. You know, environmental issues was, I thought in my mind, I always consider a pretty white issue.
Yeah, you're not alone.
Right, totally. And environmentalists, I used to get annoyed because I didn't think they had the same passion that we had for other issues. But you've managed to bring that passion into the environmental thing, and you've really hit on it. Sustainable development.
Right.
Explain it.
Right. And the kind of environmentalism I do is actually called environmental justice. And all that is, for people that aren't familiar with that, is it's a principle that no one community, especially a poor community of color, should have more environmental burdens and very little or no environmental benefits. And unfortunately, race and class have a lot to do with where you find the good stuff, like parks and trees, and where you find the bad stuff, like power plants and waste facilities. So for us, sustainable development is about creating sustainable communities for everything and everybody in it, but in particular, people first. We deserve to have, all people from all backgrounds deserve to have clean air, you know, a right to open space and parks and development, also living wage jobs that don't degrade the environment. And that's why so much of our work touches upon all of those things in a way that actually improves the quality of life for everything, because it's not just, you know, the little place that you live in. Your environment extends, you know, in terms of everything. What you do, how you feel about yourself and your own community, and how people view you as well.
I've always thought that, I mean, being poor and really poor and living in a poor neighborhood is a very, not only is it hard and it's a struggle, but it's also depressing because it's so ugly.
Yes. Oh, yeah.
You know, there is no beauty around.
There was a reason why I wanted to leave the South Bronx the second that I could. I didn't even apply for any schools in New York City when I got out of high school, because I was like, I'm not staying here. There's no way. It does. It assaults your spirit, you know, not having that around, and having a soul of an artist. But I think everybody does. I mean, everybody loves beauty.
Everybody has to have it, I think, in their life. So tell us about Sustainable South Bronx. It's an organization that started. You didn't start it did it start in response to stopping the waste, the sewage?
The interesting thing that happened was that whole process, you know, what the way that the community kind of helped develop itself, really inspired me to think about. Communities already know what they want. I mean, we went through this whole community visioning process where people were asked, like, what do you want to see in your own community? And surprise, they didn't want to see huge waste facilities on their waterfront. And their responses were clean air, things, better transportation system, you know, parks and open space, living wage jobs that don't degrade the environment. And I thought, how amazing would it be if I actually started an organization that actually, like, helped bring to life the visions that people have identified. And that's what I wanted to do. And, like, you know, and put, you know, some power to it, and spoke to people about it, and funders, et cetera, and started it in 2001.
So they never built the plant?
No, we won that battle. We kicked that butt. It was so cool. It really was one of the most empowering, most beautiful things that I've ever seen and witnessed in my community.
So do you have a political sense also?
Yeah.
You understand. You're a good organizer and strategist.
Yeah, the work that we do, I consider the whole work of Sustainable South Bronx a political strategy. Yeah. You know, the fact that we've created, you know, partnerships with lots of different folks, you know, on the community level, on the business level, you know, and otherwise, in order to create projects that actually meet the needs of people in our community, as well as support other folks' needs as well. It's strange bedfellows, but not necessarily. It's just like, how do we, like, see common ground in order to support people, you know, that have been, you know, politically, I think, abused in many, many ways.
Yeah. Now, what are the different activities that you do in this?
One of my favorite, projects right now is a project called the Eco-Industrial Park, and we're just completing the feasibility study for it right now. And all it is a collection of businesses that use recyclable materials as raw materials. And the way that our plan works, it actually uses recyclable materials, so it's solid waste mitigation. It depends on barge and rail access, so it takes trucks off the road, improving air quality, and it could actually create between 300 to 500 jobs.
And how many businesses will it take?
Right now, there's 5 that have shown a lot of interest in actually relocating to New York City.
And do you have the space?
Yeah, there's a site on the Hunts Point waterfront, actually right next door to the site that the city wanted to build this huge waste facility called the Oak Point site. Now, unfortunately, that's also the same site that the city's planning on building a 2,000-bed jail. Yeah. So it's kind of like
a jail for.
Well, supposedly in this era of dropping crime rates, you know, they feel the need because they've not justified the need in these beds. They're supposedly going to close Rikers, but they haven't really responded to any of our freedom of information requests. And, you know, it's a really difficult situation to be in.
We'll get to that in a minute. So where's your park? Where is this
the
beautiful park?
It's lovely.
Was that the first activity that you did after?
Well, yes, and no, but but specifically, the park was actually started when I was with the other agency, The Point. My dog helped me find it. We kept getting these bizarre little requests for proposals to do Bronx River restoration projects, and I was like, "That's sweet." And,
from the city, from the Parks
actually
Department.
Actually it was Parks Department project, and I was like, "That's sweet, and thank you very much, but you can't get to the river from here."
Right.
And lo and behold, you could. And fortunately, because my dog led me down this site, what I thought was another junkyard, but it dead ended at the Bronx River. And that was a little $10,000 seed grant that helped us just get some folks to do cleanups and stuff. And 6 years later, actually, after that little $10,000 seed grant was leveraged about 300 times over, and it created the most beautiful park on the Bronx River called the Hunts Point Riverside Park. And I got married there last year. Yeah, it was very cool.
I knew Hunts Point from the food. Mm-hmm. The food market, and now they've moved the fish market up there. Is the fish market next to the food market?
Yes, they're all in the same general area.
Same thing. Then was Spofford not up there?
Oh, Spofford's there.
In Hunts Point?
Yeah.
And is that still open?
Yes, as far as I know.
And then where is the barge they had?
The barge is down on actually closer to the fish market.
And is the barge still used?
Right now, I think
the
there's the prison barge.
For the people watching, was the prison barge that they took a barge and converted it into a prison.
Yes.
And so all of these are in the area that you're trying to do this.
About 700 acres, the whole thing.
And then one of your major projects, which I love, is the Sheridan Express. Is it called the Expressway?
Well, we're trying to decommission the Sheridan Express.
I love the idea of that.
Yeah, it's like, let's get rid of some of Robert Moses' failures.
I mean, what Robert Moses did to the Bronx was really so outrageous, wasn't it? And it's been a project, it's been a problem for so many years.
Yes.
I remember the Koch administration got attacked because in the windows of houses they painted curtains and flower pots.
I was a kid when that happened, and I was like, I'm sure that money could have been used to rehabilitate somebody's home, but now.
So this expressway was created to divert traffic and take it into the highway or whatever it was, and it's rarely used.
The Sheridan Expressway was never even finished, so that's why it's rarely used. It was supposed to go through the New York Botanical Gardens, but it happened, at a time when Moses' power wasn't so strong.
Right.
So their board of directors was just like, no, you can't build a highway through our, garden, and it didn't get done.
So you want it decommissioned, which means take it off the maps as a highway.
As a highway.
And let us have it as a pedestrian. Well, it would be the South Bronx Highline project that Manhattan has.
Even more.
It would be much bigger.
It's 28 acres.
28 acres.
Which could, and the groups that we're working with, the Southern Bronx River Watershed Alliance, have actually, because we had lots of people weigh in on it, created a stakeholder process and people were interested in housing and community economic development, and of course the connection, a greenway development to the parks that are on the Bronx River as well.
So that's another project.
Yeah.
And then you have a BEST program.
Yes, the BEST program Project BEST stands for Bronx Environmental Stewardship Training, and we train young folks. Actually, some of them aren't that young. The oldest one we've trained is 45 years old, in the field of ecological restoration and brownfield remediation, green collar jobs, what we're calling them. So we've actually been able to train folks. It's only a 10-week program, and parlay them into jobs, with Central Park Conservancy or the Bronx River Alliance. And we have a really fantastic success rate. 90% of our graduates are now gainfully employed, with 80% of those in ecological restoration fields.
And your office isn't. Do you own the building that your office is in?
I wish. No.
But you have a green roof.
Yes.
Which is one of the things that you're really trying to produce in larger things. Mm-hmm. It was very interesting to me. You have green roofs, cool roofs, and tar roofs, right? Tar roofs attract the heat.
And degrade under the sun.
And degrade.
Yeah,
cool roofs reflect it up because it's silver or whatever, aluminum, white. And then your green roof, which is what?
All it is soil and living plants, which actually absorb stormwater, so you don't have to create huge sewage treatment plants in neighborhoods just like South Bronx. And they also cool the air, because it's, that's what greening does. And it also actually filters the air as well, because plants, produce oxygen and take out pollution. So it's a really beautiful, beautiful thing that they do.
So have you been able to duplicate that around?
We're working on a project with a small owner, at the Hunts Point Market. And also we're going to do a green roof on my building as well.
So have you identified an area that you would like to have be yours to plan and develop?
You mean in terms of greeners or just in general?
General.
Oh,
with the city.
I mean all of New York City. I mean, I think it has to become on.
Well, obviously, what you're doing there can well be done in East New York and other.
And that's the point.
Right.
Nothing that we're doing in the South Bronx. I mean, it's all replicable. Right. And if for the state of the city and for this, because all the things that we're doing in terms of environmental justice communities, we feel the effects of the pollution that we're dealing with, but global warming is coming everybody's way. If we can show that we can do some projects that actually produce a better quality of life, better air quality, better energy conservation, then these things can happen elsewhere. I mean, this is not rocket science. It's happening around the world.
So tell me, but when you say the city wants to build a prison there,
a jail.
Prison, jail, there's a difference. This is a jail.
This is a jail.
What can you do why can't they leave you alone? Since you have this record and you're doing these things.
Well, why can't they leave us alone? I mean, we're looking to work as a partner with the city.
Right.
We don't want to work alone.
No, you shouldn't. That's the problem.
Exactly. I mean, I feel very discouraged, because we were working actively with the city on this.
Every time you turn around, there's something that you have to fight.
Yeah, they gave us the funding for the feasibility study.
It's just too much.
Yeah.
I don't know what they're talking. Sorry. Do you work with city planning?
Not really.
Do you work with a deputy mayor who is over all of planning and development?
Well, we thought we were until we actually, EDC, Economic Development Corporation, was the lead agency on our South Bronx Greenway project,
right.
which is amazing project. We just finished the plan for that. And again, we got the funding for the eco-industrial park from the empowerment zones, which of course, the deputy mayor oversees. So we're really trying to get on the same page with them in terms of understanding that real sustainable development doesn't begin with putting our people in jail.
Absolutely.
With educating them, etc.
But it's more than that, because it's a blight for you.
Yeah.
There is no reason why they should put it there. That's exactly what you're talking about, is all of these facilities that nobody wants in their communities, they put into low-income communities of color. So the deputy mayor of planning and development, not EDC. I mean, have you been to see him?
Dan Doctoroff? Yes, we have.
And he can't help you?
It's their project.
The prison?
Yeah. They're the lead agency, not Department of Corrections. Well, it's part of a real estate deal. It all started, with the related companies, Gateway Project, the 1 million square foot mall on the west side of the Bronx. The Bronx House of Detention was there, which was an empty 400-bed facility, empty. And, we knew that the Department of Corrections needed a facility somewhere. And so as we were working on our feasibility study, for the Oak Point Park area, we knew there was going to be a small facility there. What we did not know was the extent to which, the city was going to expand this concept, of a small detention center. And that's where we're feeling like this is not, an open exchange or a partnership.
So now, how large is this movement?
How long? Which movement?
Sustainable development and economic and environmental justice.
It's happening all over the country.
And you're in contact with all?
We're in contact with actually quite a few folks. And also it's really interesting to see what's happening, in movements around the country, because, environmental justice groups start doing this stuff out of desperation for people in their own community, because it really is a people-centered movement. It's just yes, we can talk about the flora and the fauna, the Adirondacks and all that stuff. And that's great and fine, and we always will, and it's really important. But, if people aren't here, to actively participate in it, that if we're not building connections between people and nature, and especially if it's right outside their front door, then the Brazilian rainforests do not stand a chance, as far as I'm concerned. And being able to help people speak truth to power, to understand that they actually have some in terms of the building of their own environment. That's all we're trying to do. We're trying to build a school, actually, next year in 2008. And part of that is what we're trying to do is build, people who have a critical understanding of their environment, starting with themselves, so that they can become the critical thinkers that actually decide to vote more often and be a part of their community.
Is it equal that the justice of it, that low-income communities should not be impacted with all negative things, and that we have to protect the environment? Are they equal factors?
Yes, I think they absolutely are. I mean, there's an old argument that people, there's like this tension between jobs and environmental development. That's not true. You can do environmental development in an economically sustainable way. It just, does it take a little time? Does it take a little planning? Absolutely. But look at all the planning that's happening right now. It's like we're not trying to build stadiums because we know that they're not economically sustainable, at least not for the common man.
Is this a movement that started from the United Nations and from developing countries?
No, you know what? Folks have been doing it in this country for
a long
yes,
time.
a very, very long time. Everything from folks in the Rust Belt, people who lived near chemical facilities downtown. Down south. Sorry,
right.
But yes, there was the Bhopal incident, in India, and it happened, and of course. Internationally now, like what we do with our waste, the fact that so much of it goes, into developing countries right now for us to deal with. It's a movement. It's an international movement.
And you had a slight encounter. I wasn't even going to ask you this with Al Gore, but
I was like, which encounter? There's so many I have these days.
We should discuss the fact that somebody called you up one day and said that you've just been awarded $500,000. Is that how it worked? When you received the MacArthur Fellowship?
Yeah,
pretty much. You just got a phone call one day?
Yeah.
And what did they say? They just said, we want to tell you?
It was the president of the MacArthur Foundation. And actually, at first I thought he was calling me to ask for a recommendation for somebody else. And I was like, I know so many great people, I couldn't figure out who it was. And then he's like, so is your door closed? And then it was like, okay, this is getting a little weird. Are you sitting down? And so I did. And then he said, well, you heard of the MacArthur Award? And I'm like, yeah, sure. Yeah, of course. And he said, well, this year, you're one of them. I just started bawling my eyes out. And then, it hit me, the conspiracy theorist in me just said, this isn't true. Who do you think you are? I was like, if this is a lie, this is really, really cruel joke. And he's like, no, my dear, this is not a joke. And it was very sweet.
And how many people receive it a year?
25.
That's wonderful.
Yeah.
So does a lot of that money go into your project? It's your money to do whatever
you want. And it's a really interesting thing because...
it's too bad being a mother, it's too bad your mother and father aren't here to see. You think they know?
I think my mom and dad absolutely know.
Right.
They're cracking up going, that's my baby. Yeah, they totally. Yeah. I feel very comforted in that.
So what do you do now?
I use it as a platform to continue doing what I was doing before.
So you can travel and you can
and also
things,
having the benefit of being anointed by the MacArthur Foundation, it just raised the profile of environmental justice in a way that things haven't changed that much in terms of the work that I've been doing, but now more people know about it, and I think the whole movement benefits as a result of it. And I'm really excited to be used in that way.
Right. When did this year start? January? It started in January?
The year for
your MacArthur Fellowship.
Oh, no. I went in 2005.
Oh, 2005.
Yeah, that's when I was a fellow.
So I hope you still have some money.
Oh, yeah. I've got a few more years left.
And the city is going to challenge you, huh?
Yeah, well, I think, on the jail, you mean?
Yes.
I think we're going to do our best to help them understand that the way to build supportive communities is to work with the communities that are there. We are experts in our own communities. We have a vested interest, in building strong, supportive families. It costs a lot of money, to build a prison. The reason why you want to build them is to keep them filled. I don't think this city, this administration, or anybody who's going to follow up really wants that on their head. And hopefully everyone who agrees with them right now will soon be changing their minds.
And if it's a jail, it's people who are awaiting trial or have been sentenced to less than a year.
Yes.
And these are people who really you could be working with and training and giving them an education in your schools.
It costs, what, $70,000? Precisely. $70,000 is what we spend.
For keeping a person in jail.
And how much do we spend on a child in education?
It's terrible. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
So
enough said.
The school that you want to start, will that be just a charter school, or will you be part of the?
Hopefully we'll be working with New Visions for public schools, and we're really excited about it because the whole focus of it will be environmental justice and community participation and activism. So again, trying to teach kids that to be an active part of your community, you kind of have to know about it and be a player in your own community.
Do you have a newspaper in your community?
No, we don't. Not yet.
And do you have the cooperation of local political people?
I mean, we've been really, we definitely keep in touch with as many folks as we possibly can. And, our local folks absolutely know what's going on. And we're really very encouraged, in particular around people's support against the jail. We're really happy about that.
What about your local community board? Do you relate to them? Or do they relate to you?
I think that they're a great group of people, and I think ultimately, when push comes to shove, we're always going to work, together in support of the community.
Right. So your next projects are to continue your school, your project, to proceed with the Sheridan Expressway. Do you have money to do that?
Oh, no. Right now, we've got to get the state to make sure that they're studying all the options. Right now, the State Department of Transportation only wants to study their one option in the environmental impact statement, which means they don't even want to look at the tear down of the Sheridan. But legally, we're going to challenge them if they decide not to.
And the Greenway?
The Greenway, let's see what happened. We just decided on the feasibility study. The master plan is done and it's beautiful. Hopefully we're going to break ground on some of the new projects come 2008.
How much money do you have for the Greenway?
Right now we've got about $20 million.
So great.
Yes.
Are you building housing at all?
Not yet.
Are you thinking of that?
Absolutely. Years down the line, though, not right now. But, my dream is to build I just saw this today. It was really cool. A vertical house that actually is not a biosphere because those are kind of weird, but a vertical building that actually it has more than a roof garden, but actually can, it's a whole sustainable, garden around the roof, which actually includes the building and provides food for people that are in it, processes, gray water and wastewater to water all the facilities in it. And I just think there are ways that we can do this.
There's so many things.
Yeah.
Well, we're watching you at Majora. It is it's wonderful to be able to see that you can fulfill dreams, right?
Yeah, it is.
It's great. We've
exciting.
come to the end of our program, and I thank you very much.
Thank you for having me.
And wish you all the luck of the world.
Thank you.
If there are any people you'd like to hear and topics you'd like us to explore, please let me know. You can write to me at CUNY TV, 365 Fifth Avenue, New York, New York, 10016, or you can go to the website at cuny.tv and click on Contact Us. I look forward to hearing from you.